Hey everybody, so here we are at the NHL All-Star break, and I thought now is a good time to take a look back on last summer's free agent class and talk a little bit about how some of 2019's biggest free agents are performing so far with their new teams. So before we get into it, I just quickly want to remind everyone to please hit that like button down below if you haven't already. Those really do help out the channel a lot. And if you are new to the channel, to please hit that subscribe button and follow along for all my hockey content this season and all year round. Both of those things are greatly appreciated. So let's get into it, starting with the biggest free agent of last summer, Artemi Panarin. Signed with the New York Rangers. He was the, marquee premier free agent last summer. And Artemi Panarin is having an outstanding season so far with the New York Rangers. He's played 47 games. He's scored 26 goals, 42 assists for 68 points already this year, and is a plus 22 on the season. So Artemi Panarin missing the All-Star game because of injury, having a little bit of an injury issue right now, but overall this season has been absolutely outstanding. The Rangers are not yet quite a playoff team. They're still rebuilding, but they're a lot better than they were the last couple of years, and Artemi Panarin is a big reason why, and I think he's going to continue to perform for them going forward. On the other end of the spectrum, we have Sergei Bobrovsky, another huge free agent from last summer, and quite frankly, Bobrovsky has been disappointing with the Florida Panthers. Florida gave him $10 million per season to come in and be an elite franchise goaltender. So far this season, Bobrovsky has started 36 games. He's 19-12-4 on the season, which certainly isn't a terrible record, but his goals against average is 3.24 and his save percentage is .898. So you really don't want to see a goals against over 3, especially from a goaltender that you're paying $10 million per year to, and a save percentage under 900 is pretty rough. So Bobrovsky is not having a great first season in Florida. Obviously, the team defense there plays a role in that. Florida is a run-and-gun, high-scoring team, and they don't play all that well in their own end, but Bobrovsky just quite frankly has to be better. And if Florida is going to go anywhere in the playoffs, he needs to start stopping the puck a lot more. Those numbers for him are not very good for somebody who's supposed to be an elite goaltender. Matt Duchene signed with Nashville in the offseason, and he not having a great year. 44 games played for Duchene, 10 goals, 21 assists for 31 points, and a -5 on the season. Nashville has really struggled as a team, and Duchene is just not putting up that great of numbers with the Predators. Only 10 goals, only 31 points. You're still looking at probably, a 50 to 60 point season for Duchene, but he was brought in there, I think, to be a number one center and put up big time numbers, and only having 10 goals on the season I don't think is great for Duchene. We'll see if he can get to 20, but right now it's really not looking like he's going to get to 20 this year, depending on how the second part of the season goes. Tyler Myers in Vancouver. Now Vancouver currently leading the Pacific Division. He's been pretty darn good this year. And Myers has definitely been a great addition to that team's defense. Myers, obviously big, 6'8", over 220 pounds, defensive defenseman. He's played 49 games this year. He's got 4 goals, 11 assists for 15 points, and an even rating. Now, those numbers don't jump out at you, but Myers isn't, he can chip in some offense. He does have 15 points, but he's not a big point producer. He's more of a defensive defenseman, and he's really helped Vancouver out in their own end, and he's really been a nice addition to that defense core and just that top 4 and helping solidify things defensively in Vancouver. Joe Pavelski. Joe Pavelski is another player really struggling in his new home. He signed with Dallas in the offseason after spending his entire career with the San Jose Sharks. And through 48 games with the Dallas Stars, he only has 8 goals, 11 assists for 19 points. He is +4 on the season, and we did know that going to Dallas, the numbers were going to decrease because Dallas is a very defensive-minded team, one of the best defensive teams in the league, but they don't score a whole lot. And so Pavelski probably wasn't going to put up 35 goals with Dallas. He probably wasn't going to put up, 70 to 80 points with Dallas. But to be more than halfway through the season and only have Pavelski at 8 goals and 19 points, that is pretty disappointing. It looks like he's going to struggle to even reach 40 points this year, probably won't at this point. And he, after, being a 30-plus goal scorer last year, might not even reach 20 this season. So big-time drop in offense from Joe Pavelski going to the Dallas Stars. Another Florida Panther here, Anton Stralman, who veteran defenseman brought in from Tampa Bay to kind of help out and give a veteran presence to that back end and try and solidify things a little bit defensively in Florida. Now, Stralman himself has not been bad. He's played 49 games. He's got 4 goals, 13 assists for 17 points and a -1 on the season. He hasn't been bad defensively. Florida as a whole, though, is giving up a lot of goals for a number of different reasons. But Stralman's been okay. Good, pretty decent 17 points from him this season, but maybe just like to see that team in general pick things up defensively heading into the playoffs if they want to actually be a threat to make a playoff run. Otherwise, they're just going to give up way too many goals and not be able to go anywhere in the postseason. Matt Zuccarello from Minnesota signed there in the offseason. He has 13 goals, 15 assists for 28 points in 46 games played and is a -9 on the season. Zuccarello's been fine. He's been okay individually. Minnesota obviously not having a great season. Looks like they're going to miss the playoffs. But Zuccarello's been okay. That's just a team that in general is lacking offense. Wayne Simmons, really, really rough year for Wayne Simmons in New Jersey. He signed there in the offseason on a 1-year deal. And Simmons, through 48 games with the Devils, only has 5 goals this season, 14 assists for 19 points, and is -14. Now, obviously, the plus-minus is inflated because he's on a really, really bad team. So the minus is worse than it probably should be, but still, the offense is really disappearing for Wayne Simmons, only 5 goals this year. And he's somebody I think probably gets traded at the deadline to a playoff team looking for depth. Couple of goalies to talk about here. Semyon Varlamov with the New York Islanders has started 27 games this season. He's 15-8-4 with a 2.59 goals against average and a .915 save percentage. So the numbers are pretty decent for Varlamov with New York, with the Islanders. He hasn't been spectacular. He hasn't been outstanding, but he's been very, very solid. And Robin Lehner in Chicago, who was with the Islanders last season, also has started 27 games. He's 15-8-4 as well. They have the exact same record. Lehner's goals against average is 2.86, and his save percentage is .922. So better save percentage, worse goals against average. That's largely, I think, because Chicago is a much worse team than the Islanders. Chicago making a bit of a playoff run now for a playoff spot, but still outside the playoff picture. Not one of the better teams in the Western Conference, whereas the Islanders, I think, are one of the better teams in the Eastern Conference. Again, now we see the numbers here and how similar they are between Lehner and Varlamov. I really don't know why the Islanders let Robin Lehner go, especially when he and Varlamov have the exact same cap hit this season. I still, to this day, would have kept Lehner if I were the Islanders, but they let him go to Chicago, where he's having a very nice year. And Varlamov's been good. He's been very solid for the Islanders. But again, I just don't think Varlamov's been an improvement at all. So I really don't understand the letting Leonard go, but it is what it is. Gus Nyquist with the Columbus Blue Jackets. Columbus lost a lot this past offseason. Panarin, Bobrovsky, Duchesne, Dzingel, all gone in free agency. Nyquist was the one piece that they brought in and was going back to Columbus. He's played 51 games. He has 11 goals, 21 assists for 32 points in his +3. Pretty solid numbers from Nyquist. Certainly not an elite player, not a superstar player, but a solid, second line type guy. Similar to a Chris Kreider type, honestly, at least numbers wise. And, he's having a decent season with the Blue Jackets. Brandon Tanev signed with the Pittsburgh Penguins after playing in the beginning of his career with the Winnipeg Jets, and Tanev is having a very, very nice season with Pittsburgh. He's brought a lot of grit and energy to the middle of that lineup. He's also been able to chip in offensively. Through 50 games, he's got 10 goals, 12 assists for 22 points, and his +2. So definitely on pace for his best offensive season in the league. He's playing a bigger role in Pittsburgh than he did in Winnipeg, and he's been a very, very nice addition to that lineup. Brett Connolly with the Florida Panthers has played 49 games. He's got 16 goals already, 13 assists for 29 points, and his +3. Florida is all about the offense this year, and Connolly has been a nice depth scorer for them. Certainly looks like he's going to score 25 goals or so. Certainly looks like he's going to get over 40 points this season, maybe even 50 points this season. So it's been a nice offensive year for Brett Connolly in Florida. Corey Perry in Dallas. Talk about a player that has really fallen off a cliff over the last few seasons. Corey Perry, 36 games played. He's had injury problems this year, as well as a 5-game suspension stemming from his hit in the Winter Classic. But 36 games played for Perry, only 3 goals, 10 assists, and 13 points, and -2 rating. Now, Perry at this point is a bottom 6 player. He's playing mostly on the 3rd or 4th line in Dallas. And he's not the player that he used to be, not even close. I think the big offensive years are well behind Corey Perry. And as we can see, only 3 goals this year. So he's certainly in a steep decline. Mike Smith, goaltender, went from the Calgary Flames to the Edmonton Oilers this past offseason. He started 24 games for Edmonton this year, 12-9-3 on the season with a 2.96 goals against average and a .901 save percentage. Certainly not sparkling numbers for Mike Smith, but decent, okay numbers from Mike Smith, and he's certainly been an upgrade over Cam Talbot, who was really, really bad for Edmonton the last couple of years. So they let Talbot go. We'll talk about him in a little bit later, and they brought in Mike Smith. It's definitely been an upgrade for the Oilers. His numbers aren't not great, like I said, but he's winning games, and Edmonton's in a playoff spot, so credit to Mike Smith there. Ryan Dzingel signed with Carolina in the offseason, and he's having a solid season, not a great year. It's not like last year he really had like his best season as a pro, and it was a really high offensive output year. Not as good this year, but he's not playing as significant of a role. In Carolina, he's more of that like second, third line, middle of the lineup type guy. He's got 8 goals, 19 assists, and for 27 points and +5 through 50 games with the Hurricanes this year. So probably not going to reach 20 goals unless he has a fantastic final 2 months, but still a solid middle of the lineup contributor for Carolina. Marcus Johansson in Buffalo has played 42 games. He's got 6 goals, 15 assists for 21 points and is -7. I mean, some Buffalo fans thought that the signing of Marcus Johansson was some transformative offensive boost to this team. He's got 6 goals on the year. I mean, this is what I expected Marcus Johansson to be. He's going to finish with probably 30-something points on the season, 10 to 12 goals, and be a minus player. This is pretty much what I expected from Johansson. I think some Buffalo fans certainly thought he was going to be bigger and better than this, but this is what he is at this point in his career. He's a third-line guy, and that's been true so far in Buffalo for Johansson. Noel Acciari, another forward that went to Florida this past offseason from Boston, and he is having a career year offensively with the Florida Panthers. Achari's played 46 games. He's got 18 goals, a career high, actually more. I believe that's more than his entire career before this year combined, or at least tied for that. So a massive, massive goal-scoring year for Noel Acciari. Also has added 3 assists for 21 points and an even rating. Acciari's just been lighting it up goal-scoring wise with Florida, a huge, huge addition to their depth scoring, and he's looked fantastic. Michael Ferland signed with Vancouver and this past offseason, and unfortunately for him and the team, he's had major concussion issues this year. He's been limited to just 14 games where he scored 1 goal, 4 assists for 5 points and is -3. It's been a really tough year for Ferland with the concussions, and he is on long-term injured reserve right now, and he's a guy that was brought in to be a physical player who could chip in secondary scoring for the Canucks, and he's just unfortunately not been able to do that, not been able to stay on the ice this season, and really would like to see him come back with the Canucks for the playoffs because he's a very valuable kind of player to have in the postseason, but we'll see if his body allows that. Hopefully, he'll at least be back next season, but it sounds like he's experiencing continued concussion-like symptoms, so not great news for Michael Ferland. Jason Spezza signed with Toronto this past offseason for what's likely his final season in the NHL. And through 37 games played this year with the Maple Leafs, he's got 6 goals, 12 assists for 18 points and is -5. I mean, Spezza's been fine. He's been okay. Certainly not the player that he once was, but that's expected given his age. He's been a decent bottom 6 secondary scorer for the Maple Leafs this year. Marcus Granlund signed with Edmonton after 4 years in Vancouver this past offseason. And Granlund, having a rough year to say the least. He's only been in the lineup for 31 games this season. He has just 3 goals, 1 assist for 4 points and is -1. Granlund's just done virtually nothing for the Oilers, and it's been a rough year for him. He's not really contributing at all. You'd think he'd at least get to 10 to 15 goals and 25 to 30 points, and that's just not even been close. Only 4 points on the season for Granlund. Cam Talbot, who was with the Edmonton Oilers last year and got replaced by Mike Smith, went to Mike Smith's old team in the Calgary Flames, where David Rittich has fully taken over as the starter now. Talbot has solely been a backup for Calgary this year, but his numbers are actually not bad. Talbot has started 14 games. He's 7-7-0 on the season, so only a .500 record. But he's got a 2.54 goals against average and a .922 save percentage with the Flames this year. So Talbot's actually been pretty good individually for the Flames this season. And he's certainly, I think, at this point, a backup goaltender. But, for a guy that I thought should be out of the league completely, given how bad he's been the past 2 years with the Oilers, he's kind of proving me wrong a little bit, and I think he's still, at least in a backup role, can be a somewhat decent backup goalie at the NHL level. He's at least showing that this year. And last but not least, a player who was once a highly, highly regarded top 4 defenseman, and then his career completely fell apart with the Washington Capitals and the New York Rangers. Kevin Shattenkirk signed a very cheap 1-year deal with the Tampa Bay Lightning before this season started, and Shattenkirk is having a great rebound, bounce-back year with the Tampa Bay Lightning. He's played 48 games, 7 goals, 20 assists for 27 points, and a +21 on the season with Tampa Bay. This is the Kevin Shattenkirk of old. He's really getting his career back on track with the Lightning, and that's really, really good for him because he had completely fallen off a cliff. His career was headed down the toilet fast, and it appears that he saved it this year with Tampa Bay. So Kevin Shattenkirk has been a very, very nice addition for the Lightning, and is really getting his career back on track. So those are all the free agents from this past summer that I wanted to talk about. There obviously were more signings, but these were the big ones. So just wanted to check in and see how all those guys were doing on their new teams. So with that, like, comment, share, subscribe, follow on social media. All those links are down in the description. If you'd like to further support the channel, the links to our Patreon and merchandise store are down in the description as well. Keep spreading the word about this channel. Let's keep this thing growing. Thank you very much for watching. Hope you enjoyed the video, and I'll talk to you guys soon.